where we live.
Breakfast with Andy Twig.
BBC Radio Derby.
Right, Kaylee Hall is at this car park in Derby City Centre that's been the talk of the town for the past month or so. Kaylee, remind us why Copeland Street has got people chatting. Morning.
Morning, Twiggy. Yes, I've been down here for the majority of the morning. It's slowly starting to fill up with those heading to work early. But I'm down here because over the past month or so, we've heard from Rosie Hudson. So Rosie came to tell us her story on Radio Derby because she was fined almost £2,000 for 10 separate incidents. Basically because once you enter the car park, you've got 5 minutes to park up and pay here on Copeland Street. And the days that Rosie came, the ticket machine wasn't working, so she had to try the app. So earlier on, you might have heard me parking up and using the ticket machine, and I managed to do it in about 4 minutes. That ends up being a little bit longer when you've got to download the app. She couldn't get signal, so obviously it was longer than that, and she ended up with massive fines and a date in court as well. After a chat with us, she got massive media coverage, and XL Parking, who own the car park, have actually ended up dropping those fines just before Christmas without explanation. So now the private parking firms have pledged to update their rules to ensure motorists aren't penalised if they don't park within 5 minutes, which is a good thing because, as I say, Rosie had to download an app, and when I tried yesterday, the ticket machine was working. This morning, to make it a fair test, I have tried it with the app. I didn't have the app previously. I've come in, I've found a space, I've parked up. Downloaded the app, which took a little bit of time. And because I was new, I also had to sign up. So I was filling in details, email address, phone number, card details. And actually, from start to finish, it took me 7.5 minutes. So I would have been well over the 5-minute mark.
Right, Kaylee, thank you. Well, as you heard Kaylee there, I think it's fair to say Rosie Hudson is a large reason for this particular change. As we say, good morning to Rosie. Morning.
Oh, good morning, Twiggy.
Good morning. What do you make of the latest news then, Rosie?
I'm over the moon. I'm delighted that my voice has been heard, and I can safely say that things are going to change and people won't be penalised by this ridiculous rule. It's finally going to change.
You've kind of been the face of all this. How do you feel, now? Because you've not just helped yourself, you've helped others in this change.
Yes, and that, to be honest with you, that was the reason I spoke out so much, not just for myself, being aware of the thousands of people that are affected every single day by this car parking company, and to know, after doing lots of research, to know that they've got over 250 car parks across the UK, not just one, and also other private car parking companies that are playing the same game. I thought to myself, hang on a second, what's being done about this? This is going to carry on. Let's get it out there and hope for the best. And it's finally worked, so I feel like I can celebrate.
Oh, I can hear the smile in your voice. You heard Kaylee there. Hopefully you heard her there. She downloaded the app, but it took her 7 minutes. Does that surprise you?
Not at all. No, it's just confirmed that there is still that issue there. I really hope she doesn't get fined, actually. I'm a bit worried.
The boss has agreed to pay it if we do. Do you trust these private parking firms, to do as they say and not penalise honest drivers like you?
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that they will take this seriously, just like the private car parking sector has done, and will listen and understand that we just want to park freely, pay as normal, and get on with our days. I think they need to realise that we're not just victims. We can't just be penalised and given these fines every single day. They need to realise that that's not how we are, and I'm hoping that they now know that I'm able to stand up for us, and And I'm hoping that they will back down and say, enough is enough. They've caught on to what we're doing. We need to stop this. And I really hope it helps people that are also in the same situation. And I'm hoping that they will drop fines for people that are going through the situation now.
Is your work done, Rosie?
Oh, I'd like to say so. However, if there's a way of me helping even more, so if that's more exposure, telling people about my situation, I'm sure everybody knows now, but to show, my evidence, my letters, my scaremongering letters to say you owe this much, the debt recovery letters with basically warning me you'll get a CCJ, to put it out there and to tell people don't be afraid of them. There is a way around it as long as you have evidence that you've paid. I really want to strive and tell people that you can go forward and win.
That's easier said than done, though, in some cases, isn't it? Don't be afraid. People are.
Yes, yeah, no, I totally understand that. I'm the worst for it. I get very anxious, and I still worry about the letters that come through the post. I do wonder, oh gosh, what is it again?
Do you?
It hasn't really left. Oh yes, yeah, I still wonder, oh no, what is it today? So I think as long as people know and hear my story and so many others, to know that they haven't done anything wrong and know that you can get through it. Obviously seek legal advice and know that you've paid, you will get through it. I believe they will back down now.
Rosie, thank you so much for coming on. Scott Dixon, aka the Complaints Resolver, is a consumer and motoring disputes expert. Morning, Scott.
Good morning, Andy.
You help Rosie with her fines. Tell me about that then.
Well, the first thing I want to stress, Andy, is a private parking operator cannot fine you. They simply issue invoices for an alleged breach of contract for parking on private land. And this all falls under contract law. And only councils can issue fines. And that's for infringements on public highways, like parking in bus lanes and on double yellow lines. And this 5-minute rule should be abolished. I mean, Katie is given a great example of why it should be abolished, because it's just insufficient time to comply. By the time you pass the ANPR camera, you enter into the car park, you try to download the app, you load your details. It's impossible to comply with. And there is a 10-minute grace period within this new watered-down industry code of practice. And this 5-minute rule is simply a knee-jerk reaction to adverse media on Rosie's case.
But they've said they're going to get rid of it.
Well, they're going to put into place a mechanism for appeals on the 5-minute rule. But to my mind, they haven't got rid of it at all. They're just putting in mechanisms for motorists to appeal. But if they wanted to play fair with motorists, they would align it with the 10-minute grace and consideration period that's already within the industry code of practice.
So you still feel there's work to do then, Scott? Yeah,
very much so, Andy. This 5-minute rule should just be abolished completely and make it 10 minutes, because there's already a 10-minute grace and consideration period within the watered-down industry code of practice.
Has all this publicity gained from Rosie's case caused this, do you think? Because Rosie's been on here quite a few times.
Well, as I said earlier, I think it's just a knee-jerk reaction, and it hasn't been thought through properly. And, well, there's more to Rosie's case. I mean, the one and only parking charge notice that Rosie paid was issued more than 14 days after the parking event, and she didn't need to pay it at all. And that's a breach of Schedule 4.
Why is that? Tell me about the 14 days.
Yeah, well, the Schedule 4 of the Protection of Freedoms Act 2012 states that parking charge notices need to be issued within 14 days of the parking event. And I reviewed Rosie's court defence and noticed that the one and only parking charge notice that Rosie paid was issued out of time, and it wasn't valid to hold the keeper liable to pay it. But what they do is they strip out any reference to that legislation to trick people like Rosie into paying a parking charge notice that is not legally binding on the keeper.
But not everybody is as legally minded as you. I'm one of those people that would be oblivious to all this. That's the first I've ever heard of this 14-day.
Well, that's the problem, Andy, and this is the reason why we need a proper UK government code of practice with teeth to create a level playing field for motorists, because as it stands, we have the trade bodies just making the rules up as they go along and marking their own homework. And until that's addressed with the UK government code of practice that's been put on the back burner, things will never change.
Thank you so much for coming on, Scott. I appreciate that. Scott Dixon, a consumer and motoring disputes expert. Of course, XL Parking aren't here to respond to some of the comments from Scott there. BBC Radio Derby, if you've got any thoughts on that, please give us a call. Usual number, text us or WhatsApp.
Breakfast with Andy Twig.